Welcome back to the Ride and Laugh podcast. If you love mountain biking, you are in the right place. Today's episode is a quick rip. Dan and Sage are maybe out of town, maybe mountain biking, maybe traveling, but we are going to keep the vibe high and the flow going. How are you today, Sage?
Yo, another great one coming up, buddy. I can't wait to get into it. Let's do this.
That how came out really weird. I was like, how are you today?
It really was.
Let's get ready to sound weird. All right.
Boy.
Here's something that we can talk about, I think, with a lot of confidence and a lot of expertise. Underbiking versus overbiking. And let's explain real quickly what we mean by underbiking versus overbiking. And then I guess there's probably a sweet spot in there, right? Where you have the perfect bike for what you're riding.
Regular biking. Yeah, just biking.
Regular. There's a snappy thumbnail. Oh, I want to click on this one. Regular biking.
Regular biking.
That sounds exciting. What are the benefits of regular biking? Well, what do we mean by underbike versus overbike?
You know, I can't speak to expertise about the overbiking, but the underbiking I've done plenty of. And that is when you are taking a bike that is less capable than what the trail demands. So you take a bike that has less suspension to a trail that's super aggressive. You know, maybe that's a gravel bike on some single track or maybe a blue trail, or taking a hardtail on like some tech. You know, you are underbiking a trail that demands a bigger bike, you know, or a more capable bike. And the overbiking I've never done. I don't think I've ever had a bike that was like overbiked.
You've never taken your full suspension bike to a flow trail and been like, this is overkill. You never took your full suspension bike to Blue Marsh or White Clay, or, you know, what you've always brought the appropriate bike. You never felt like this is overkill.
I mean, White Clay is a great example, right? That is a very awesome flow trail that's near us. And I've always taken the single speed or the fat bike. I don't think I've ever gone there with a full suspension. Have you?
I don't know, but I can speak to overbiking because my primary bike in Arizona is my Pivot Firebird. And that is a big suspension enduro bike. And I don't need that much suspension on a lot of the trails that I ride. On some of the trails that I ride, I absolutely need it. On most of the trails that I ride, it's just kind of a nice to have. But I don't need that much suspension for probably 80% of the trails, 70% of the trails. I ride a lot of double black tech here, so I do love having it.
Well, I guess I could see a lot of positives to having like and by the way, I do remember one trail that we did overbike, but I didn't have a choice because I brought one bike to Arizona and we rode Brown's Ranch. And I was definitely overbiked for that. But it's, again, I didn't have a choice. That was the bike I had with me. Right. I didn't travel with two bikes. But
well, that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And we were bored out of our minds, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I was about to get to. Yes.
Totally backfired. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's my point. Like, I can see the positives to underbiking, right? But I can't see why overbiking would be like, I don't know what the positive there would be for overbiking.
All right. Well, do you want me to get into some positives of overbiking, or do you want to tell us all the positives of underbiking?
I'm kind of curious to see what you have to say about overbiking.
You're the host. You're the host of the show. Start talking. Stop giving me all the options of what we can talk about. Just start talking. All right. Here are some benefits of overbiking.
Okay.
It's gonna add confidence. You're gonna know that anything that you come up to on a trail, my bike can totally handle this. I got this. The bike is not gonna buck me. I feel like if I'm centered, if I'm in good body position, then the bike is gonna eat. The bike's gonna take care of it. So all I gotta do is get myself into that good body position, into that good flow, keep my eyes up, trust my skills and trust the bike. And let everything just flow, not have to worry about, oh, this is a hardtail, or what's going to happen. I don't want to dent a rim here, or what's going to happen if I go off this too big of a drop because I'm on the wrong bike, or I can feel the bike bottoming out, right? So it's going to add confidence. How about that?
Is it?
How about them apples?
But if you're overbiked, that means that you are on a trail that is much tamer than what your bike is meant for. So what's the challenge? Like, when would you come up against a challenge? I thought you were going to say.
Well, you're.
Go ahead.
Oh, you were going to make a point in my favor. Go ahead. I'll take it.
I thought you were going to say that the overbiking could be a good training tool because it's a much bigger, heavier bike and you're riding it on a very easy trail, which makes, like, for instance, if I go to a Browns Ranch or White Clay that is a flow trail and, I'm pedaling
I think we have to. I think we're arguing two different kinds of things. Like I'm talking about, if you're going to have one bike, right? Yes. I would rather overbike. I would rather have too much bike than too little bike. I'm not looking to take an enduro bike onto a flow trail. Like I don't think that's going to be fun. Unless that flow trail has jumps, and you would rather overbike so that if you case, the bike's going to absorb it a little bit. We took our full suspension bikes to desert trails to hit those gap jumps, knowing that, okay, it's not the perfect bike to do this, but if I case, I got a lot of room for error here versus jumping a hardtail, which is much better for there, but it also much scarier.
Okay, I didn't know that's where you were going with this. Yeah, I would agree.
I'm talking about more like if you're going to have a bike, are you better off going too much suspension or too little suspension?
I think that you're better off going too much suspension with parameters. Like I'm not gonna buy a downhill bike. That's going too far for me. Like I know I would never need that downhill bike. Maybe I would use a downhill bike once or twice a year at a downhill park. Like I'm trying to figure out what I ride the most when I'm picking out a bike. If I only had one bike, and yes, I would rather be overbike than underbike. I didn't realize that's what the conversation was about. For me, I thought you were going to ask.
Well, it's not necessarily about that. I mean, that was kind of, I just didn't want to say that, like, I'm bringing an enduro bike onto flow trails with no jumps and saying that that's more fun than having a hardtail,
Yeah.
But I think if you have if you have that extra travel, even though the bike's going to be a little bit heavier, it does unlock more trails for you. And that's another benefit to being overbiked, is unlocking more trails. There's just trails that you're going to be able to do that you can't do on a smaller bike.
Yes, having a more capable bike is going to allow you to do more things. I agree with that statement 100%.
All right.
No argument. Okay. I'll see you later.
Do you need me to tee this up for you? Because I think really what we're talking about then. Yeah. Give it to me. Yeah. Give it to me. I have no idea what to say next. Please tell me what to say. I think where we're going here is what is the benefit of underbiking? At what point in your mountain bike career are you going to say, yeah, I have a full suspension bike, I can take it to these gnarly trails, but I want to take a trail. I want to take my hardtail, or I want to take my gravel bike onto this trail. What is the benefit of doing that?
I mean, this is where I thought the conversation was going. This is something I can speak to expertise with because I underbike all the time. I love it. I love taking the single speed, which is the ultimate underbike, especially because mine's like super old Geo. But like, even a hardtail.
You cannot say that this is the ultimate underbike because, we have listeners that are going to be like, well, actually, I have a fixie. So
You're right. Yep. You're right. Well, I will say that the single speed is
it's close.
It's close. But the point is, like, taking a hardtail, a single speed or not, to a trail that you would typically take an all mountain to an enduro bike. For me, I have Mount Penn, which has some seriously ridiculously hard tech moves, huge rocks. And you take a bike that only has a minimal amount of front suspension, and now you really have to work your body. You don't have a bike to save you from a mistake. You don't have a bike to rescue you when you do something silly or pick a bad line. So you're not able to fly down the trails maybe at the same speed, but you can get better at that, obviously. But typically, if you're just getting out once in a while, you're not going to be able to go the same speed. But what you're picking up is you're picking up better line choices. You're being more active on the bike, dynamic rider, because you don't have a choice. Your arms and your legs have to work. And I love that, Danny. And then a lot of these times, if you're on a hardtail and you're on a climb that's pretty technical, you got to stand. You got to stand and crank. There's no sit and easy spin, especially on a single speed or a fixie. My goodness, you're standing and cranking. So you're working all different muscle groups. I'm going on and on here because I just love underbiking. Danny, help me out here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it adds skills and it changes the trail. So it can make your trail more fun. And to get an underbike, as if stores are advertising, come buy your underbike here. But to add that sort of bike to your stable is not necessarily really expensive. Hardtails are a lot less money and single speeds, and you get something used even, but they're a lot less money than buying like a really nice full suspension or enduro type of bike. There is so much to learn. And when you're talking about how dynamic you need to be and how aware you need to be on these older bikes or an older geometry bike or just a less capable bike or on a hardtail on some of these trails that but they're really hard. And you talk about how much motion you need to put in, how much input you need to be put in, and then you do it. Yeah. And here's what you start to learn, listener. It's not the bike, it's you. Oh, I got this. I can do this on this bike. And then it really starts, we'll talk about adding confidence on a full suspension. You start being able to do some of these things on less capable bikes, and you realize it's the rider. And if the pilot's good enough, you can do anything on any bike. And how cool is that?
Yo, I got a question for you. What is the ultimate underbike?
Ooh, wow, that's really personal. Yeah. So I would think probably a fully rigid single speed. I mean, you could go gravel bike, but that's like kind of moving out of mountain biking for me. So like keep it with mountain bike geometry, a fully rigid single speed. That's really tough. What do you think?
We spent some time.
Now that's not the underbike I would want. Nor do I own one of those. I have a regular single speed. Okay. My underbike is an aggressive hardtail. It's a very capable hardtail.
Yeah.
But it's still like nowhere near as capable as my full enduro bike. So they're two different things. The ultimate and what you would want or what you would recommend might be two different things.
Yeah, great point. Because your Banshee is the one that you're talking about. And that is a very capable bike, but it's definitely underbiked. But you can still do all those trails and feel pretty confident in that bike versus like if you did a rigid single speed, like there's probably stuff you wouldn't do. You wouldn't even consider it, and at least on the Banshee, you would consider
the rigid single speed would also make certain trails like the trails at Brown's Ranch that are, nowhere near the higher level trails. They would make that a lot more challenging. It really just changes the dynamic and changes where you want to ride it. Whereas I can take my aggressive hardtail on a lot of the regular trails I ride. Yeah. My single speed, I would be more inclined to take to other places to make those trails harder,
I totally understand what you're saying about like the gravel bike. It doesn't really fit in the mountain bike sense because it's not the same geo. It's not the same thing. However, our situations.
They're fancy road bikes.
There really are.
Like fancy road bike.
Yeah, kind of like a fancy road bike. But you and I also have different situations. Like for me, I do ride the road bike on the road, and I would love to get onto some of the trails on my road bike. Like I think being able to ride to a trail like my Gladwin trails or the Wissahickon, like I could do that on a gravel bike, and then I would be seriously underbiked at the Wiss on the gravel bike. And I do find that a little bit attractive, like I would be interested in that. I would be interested in that. So I get your point that maybe the gravel bike isn't considered a mountain bike, but I'm looking at it from a personal stance of like what I would get the most use of. Like, I don't know that I'd want to go back to a rigid single speed, but I probably might invest my money in a gravel bike, because of that idea of being able to ride to a different topic.
I think we could do a topic on gravel bikes. I think that is interesting. Yeah. I do think that's interesting. And I see what you're saying, but we're talking about mountain bikes.
Right. I know.
We talk about mountain bikes.
I know.
Not a road bike. We talk about mountain bikes.
I don't think I could do a rigid.
This bit is for my Sixers fans out there. That was the Iverson. You didn't catch on to that?
I was still.
We talking about like mountain bikes.
We talking
not a road bike.
Not a gravel bike.
Not a road bike. There we go. Here we go. Finally picked up on it. Kids, if you don't know it, look it up. Iverson. We talk about practice.
Classic. Yeah. I'm trying to think of like
talk about what I would road tires.
I'm trying to think of like the bike that I would get to underbike, and it's like I can't think of one. You know,
you wanted it for years. You wanted an aggressive hardtail, and then you kind of like, all right, I'm just going to go with the fat bike.
It's a great.
You done with the aggressive hardtail dream?
I think I am. Like, if I had money, the order of importance, unfortunately, goes to the gravel bike. Like, I think I would want that over the aggressive hardtail because the fat bike, now that I got the cush core in it, it serves as my aggressive hardtail. It really does.
Yeah.
You know, I'd love to get a new single.
Well, if you want a gravel bike, if you want a gravel bike, I appreciate you telling me that. I'm going to be looking for someone to do a podcast with. I'm a mountain bike only podcast. So, I appreciate, you letting me know that you're interested in riding on the road, and, Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail or in the comments if you want to apply for Sage's job. You also need to be able to edit the entire thing and put in all the video. And we're going to have to develop a rapport, of course, but you're out. But I was kidding aside, I think it's awesome. Overbike, underbike. What listener, what is a great second bike if you want to develop skills, if you want to underbike? Would you rather have that big full suspension bike and ride it everywhere, or are you better off getting, something with a little bit less suspension? We didn't talk on that, the regular bike. Where is that sweet spot, that trail bike, that perfect trail bike that, is going to make easy trails still fun, but hard trails also still fun. So there's that sweet spot that I think every bike manufacturer is trying to find. And there are some good bikes out there like that. So if you're going to have multiple bikes, I would go extreme. I would get like a full travel enduro bike and then maybe a hardtail. So let us know in the comments, Ride and Laugh 1 at Gmail. We're just having fun here. Let us know what you think. Everybody, thank you for listening. Make sure to rate and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Watch to the end. Tell your friends. Everyone have a great week. Thanks for listening to the Quick Rip. We'll be back soon with regular episodes. Ride and Laugh.
I'll see you, everybody.